Two friends, different worlds, aligned anyway.
Hey everyone, it's Lined Anyway. I'm your co-host Josh,
And I'm your co-host, Tiffany.
and today we have a very special guest. It is our very first guestisode. We have my dear friend Beth, and she is here today to share a personal journey. And just a quick personal disclaimer, we're going to be talking about some sensitive topics in relation to addiction, domestic violence, and some other tough challenges that might come along with those conversations. And if any of those are sensitive to you now, we just wanted to let you know that you have every opportunity to turn away from this episode and look and listen to a different one of our Lined Anyway episodes, which we appreciate you doing anyway. Beth, great to see you. It has been so freaking long since we have had any connection. However, I'm so happy that you're here on the line anyway. And, we want to start by saying thank you for, before you even start sharing your story, that we know this is personal. We know this is something that it takes a lot of guts, courage, and vulnerability to do so. And we appreciate you taking the time to do it on our platform. So just wanted to start with you and, figure out why Aligned Anyway, what you want to get across to the audience and viewers watching and listening out there, and what you hope this will bring to your conversation.
Yeah, I just want to talk about addiction and my struggles with it, and hopefully, this reaches somebody who can help them, if they have a problem and can get the resources to help them. Or if they know somebody struggling with this, maybe they can get them help or understand more about addiction. And I just hope to end like the stigma around it. But yeah, I love that you share that and that you talk about, ending the stigma around it. Josh and I talk a lot about mental health and the stigma around that and how a lot of the times people don't understand, a mental health day is the same as a sick day, whether it be my mental or my physical, right? And addiction is one of those things that does fall under that mental health category. And I really love that you're on because we're going to delve into that and kind of just challenge the status quo. So it would be really great to kind of delve in and talk to you a little bit more. And again, just like Josh said, thank you for being willing to, share your story. I really believe that sharing your story and being there to be relatable to other people is what brings us closer. And to be honest, you never know what type of conversation you have with someone or they listen to that can change their mindset and help them get on to the next day.
Beth had shared before the episode some things that she did want to talk about. And, one of the things as a very ignorant friend, just not having constant contact with Beth over the last few years, I was asking her how about her life and how things were going. We talked through addiction, and she said, her family background was fantastic, basically. And initially, as somebody looking from the outside in addiction, you go, they had to have had a bad childhood. There had to have been some kind of trauma. There had to have been some sort of rooted issue there. Beth, why don't you go ahead and share like what your experience was in the eyes of a child in a home progressing into addiction where there maybe wasn't so much turmoil?
Yeah, I don't come from like a family of addiction. My parents did divorce when I was young. That's something that I went through, but a lot of people go through that. That doesn't make everyone turn out to be addicts. My mom got remarried, so I had a stepdad, stepbrothers. Everything was great. Like, I had a great childhood, completely supported through life from all, three of my parents. And I think my thing is I'm a big follower. And so I just kind of, would like cling to people. And this person's doing this. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to do that too. But like, I don't have that. Like, it's hard for my family, I think, to understand because I'm different from them. Yeah, addicts can be anywhere, anyone. It doesn't matter. You can come from a great home and still, turn out to be an addict.
Would you say there was a certain period in time where that addiction did start or stem from something or somewhere?
After I graduated high school, so like once I got into college and started working, I met a lot of different people. So like when I was in high school, I was a band nerd, like total geek, marching band, choir, all of that. I
I
graduated, I started
understand.
working with all kinds of different people and they were like, "Hey, try this, try that, try this." And eventually it just snowballed from there. And like I said,
What would
I'm a follower, so I just wanted people to notice me. So I was like, cool, you know, they see me, they don't care. Now I know that. But back then, I thought they want me to be a part of their group. Cool. Yeah, I'll do it.
You mentioned that you're a follower, and the fact that you have that self-awareness there is great, and I'm glad that that's something that you notice. But a lot of the times when that happens or we're seeking this outside validation, people will say that came from not getting the validation that we wanted from home or things like that. So I think that just like what Josh was talking about is sometimes it's gonna be hard for people to wrap their head around like, well, where did this come from? Why did you need that validation? So for you, why do you think you were so willing to be like, okay, let me try this. I don't know what it is just for validation from that person. Where do you feel like that came from?
I don't really know. I guess I don't really have an answer for that.
A non-answer is still an answer if you can't find
Yeah.
one, just to let you know.
Part of me thinks maybe getting into some sort of like therapy could help maybe figure out some of the reason why I am how I am, but I don't know.
And that's
But
okay. We talk a lot about that too, where it's like, there are some times where I'm sad. I'm bipolar and I am sad and I don't know why. And when someone asks me what's wrong, I get more anxious because I'm like, well, I'm not really sure what to tell you. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And that realization, like, okay, why do I do that? Why did I make those changes? Sometimes if we know that reason, that just is kind of more of a reason to kinda hold you back should something happen or should relapse be something that comes up, that kinda why you do something. Sometimes if we fix that piece of it, then it holds you down or anchors you. So that's my reasoning for asking that.
Yeah. And so you talk through, going through high school and going through this phase where you were just trying to be a follower. So, walk me through what's next. What were the drugs of choice that eventually ended up building up and snowballing into, the journey that you're about to share with us next?
Okay, so I mean it started with weed, and that's something that I don't think is necessarily a huge deal or problem for most people, even some addicts. Some addicts I do think it is. I think it is definitely a drug that leads to more things if you have that brain. But I think that some people can just use that and be fine. For me, it then turned into pills. I used oxys. And then from there, when that high wasn't enough, well, it's not even that it wasn't enough. It was that back in this was like 2008, 2009, it was cheaper and easier to get heroin than the pills. It was a better high. It was easier to get. Why not? And yeah, so that's what I did, and my parents, it's, like, hard to talk about, but, like, it wasn't great, like, I was stealing from my parents to feed my addiction. I was stealing from work to feed my addiction. Eventually, I did get caught, and by my parents, not, like, by police or anything. I don't have any, like, criminal record, but I remember my mom telling me she she tried to get me help, tried to set me up with, like, an outpatient. I never went. I pretended to go, but I never went. But she told me, "If I catch you again, I'm kicking you out." And, like, my mom, growing up, she was a probation officer. So, like, I knew when she says that, she's serious. She's not
Sure.
joking. She's
Yeah.
serious. So I was like, "Okay, don't get caught." And then I did. I got caught. I got caught at work. I got fired from work, and I think it was maybe 2 days later that my mom had caught me and I was pretending to go to work but I was going to my dad's house, not telling him what was going on either. And then I remember I got a phone call from my mom and she was like, "You need to get home now and pack your things and get out of the house." And I was like, "Okay." Like, and I had no like argument left in me because I knew that she was serious. There's no coming back from this. There's no arguing. So I went home and I packed my stuff and I left. And then I went, I think the next day to a detox center and then treatment, and then I got clean. That was the first time I got but
First time. Okay.
yeah.
So how long did that first time last ultimately?
I wanna say, I think about 4 years. It was like 3.5, 4 years, maybe close to 5. Yeah.
So that brings you to when you were working and you said had been working at a rehab facility. Walk me through that experience.
When well, I mean, I guess you don't know, but when I got clean, I was very big into the AA and NA programs, and they're a great tool. So if there's anyone out there listening who needs help or wants help or needs resources, like I got you. I can hook you up with the right people, with the right meetings, the right places to go. because it's an awesome tool. But just like with my addiction, with my recovery, that became my entire life. So I started working at a treatment center because I thought, what better thing for me to do than work with what I know? And it was great. Like, it was a great job. And I eventually left to do something different. But at the time, I had met somebody that was a client there because it was in the area where I was from. So a lot of people around there, like, we all hang out. That whole group would hang out. So, like, we would have mafia nights or like Cards Against Humanity nights where we all just get together, like groups of 20, 30 of us, and just hang out. So, of course, I'm going to run into people that were at the treatment facility because they're getting clean and they're hanging around our people. So I had met one of them who became one of my best friends at the time and started another job. So I wasn't like doing anything that was shady or whatever, because you can't like date, people that work at a treatment facility. But anyways, eventually he had moved in with me and relapsed, which caused my relapse. I mean, he wasn't the cause for it. I was the cause for it. But had it not been for me, I guess, just being stupid, being me, and allowing all of this stuff in my home, it probably wouldn't have happened again, but it did.
I
And
think
so
that here's where you want to give yourself some grace, right? That typically is something that happens. I mean, we want to feel seen, and it makes sense that the people that can see you are the people that have gone through what you've gone through, or you're that person who's helping them because you've gone first, right? And we kind of go back to what we know. And I'm sure in that situation, trying to help someone out. And then a lot of the times, it could be hard to keep that water out of the ship, right? It's a quote that I love to say, but it's not the water that surrounds the ship that sinks it, it's the water that gets in. And unfortunately, how are you to know that they were going to relapse? You know what I mean? You don't want to go into something thinking, this is what's going to happen. You want to go into something positive. It's not like you moved in with someone who was still an addict. You know what I mean? And put yourself in that line of fire. So I just think it's important to, one, say that. Two, I can appreciate your self-awareness there, but I think sometimes we as a people can be a little bit too hard on ourselves unnecessarily and realize that we're human. And I think it's because we automatically assume that others are going to judge us, or others are going to say, like what you said, well, why don't you just quit? Well, why would you move in with someone who X, Y, and Z? Give yourself some grace, because the only thing that I see is someone who made it a point to fix what she had going on and then take that and help other people. So, I mean, I see someone who's really smart and brave for the fact that you decided to put yourself in that environment again to help others, which is what you're doing on this podcast. Is you're putting yourself out there and you're sharing your story and you're sharing hard things in hopes that someone else maybe doesn't have to go through some of the heartache that you went through. So I just think that you should be very proud of your story.
Well said, Tiff. Well said.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So you met someone that ended up being very toxic for you. Walk us through that experience and what that looked like.
it's hard to explain. Like, we weren't dating. We were, I guess, friends. Yeah.
Yeah, we know what friends do when you're
It-
not dating.
yeah.
We're adults here, and this is an adult podcast, and we're, girl, you can,
We were dating. So Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Well,
wasn't like thumb war, I'm sure,
turns out he wasn't the greatest person. It's sad because I felt like at first, like, he treated me like a human being and like how I wanted to be treated by a male, and it felt good until it didn't. And I remember, well, we had started using together.
Was that your decision or was that his decision?
He was already using. I decided he had went on a date with this girl he met on like a dating app, and I was pissed because he's living in my house. Now he's going on a date. So I got mad. I went into his room looking for anything because I knew he was using. I was still clean at the time. I had found some pills, and I thought in my head, I'm like, this is smart. I'm going to Google how many of these does it take to get high? And then I'm going to take one less. So that way I'm not relapsing, but he's going to know that I took some of them, and he's going to be pissed that I took his pills. Well, surprise, I got high and then fell asleep. And then he came home, barged into my room screaming at me because he realized I took some of the pills. And I still, at that moment, refused to believe that I relapsed because I was like, well, no, Google said I didn't take enough to get high. So I'm fine. I didn't relapse. And then I want to say within like a week, we had been fighting about something and asked me if I wanted to shoot up something. And I was like, sure. At that point, like, I guess my head, I gave in. I'm like, I guess I already relapsed. So sure.
So at that point, was injectables a drug of choice for you, or was this something that
Yeah,
you were just getting? Okay.
it had been before, but like I had been clean for so long. So,
Okay. Sure.
and then from that point, spiraled again back into heroin, coke, meth, which was something new that I hadn't tried before, anything I could get my hands on, really. And so now we're using together. So now it's every day, sell our things to come up with money to get high, to drive out to Saginaw to get high.
Were you still working at the rehab facility while this was going on between both
No,
of you?
I had already quit at that point.
Gotcha.
I was actually I was working with, people with, like adults who needed help with, like, mental yeah. So which made it worse because, like, I was, like, lead staff there, so I'm working, like, 80 hours a week with yeah, literally, because one of my clients that I had, nobody wanted to work with her because she would run away from them. I was, like, the only one she trusted. So I was literally there morning till night and getting high, like, in her bathroom, like, to get through my shifts because that's all I did. Things just got worse and worse between him and I. Because at this point, now I went from a house full of stuff to a house full of nothing because, when I'm not working, we're at the pawn shop trying to sell stuff to get money, even though, like, I'm making good money, but it's all going to drugs. And he's not working, so I'm supporting his habit too because, yeah, I wanted to keep him around.
And how long did that cycle go on for, the you projecting and spending and providing everything, including the habit for you and your partner?
9 months. It took 9 months to lose well, I guess I didn't lose it, but, that 4 plus years of clean time in 9 months, I threw it all away, like, it was that fast. It's crazy too how much like, when you get clean and then if you relapse, like, how fast you lose everything again. Like, people always said that, like, when I go to meetings, they would be like, "If you go back out, like, it's gonna be crazy, you're gonna lose it's gonna be way faster than the last time." Because before, I was using for 2, 3 years before, and within 9 months, gone. Within that 9 months too is when the domestic stuff started happening. All I remember is one day we were fighting about something, I couldn't tell you what because we were constantly fighting, and I was walking from the living room through the hallway to my room, and I just remember him running behind me and, like, jumping, putting his hand over my neck and throwing me on the ground, and then, like, he was covering my mouth and neck, like, choking me, I couldn't breathe.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Basically just telling me to shut up. And, I'm like struggling, so I'm trying to get out any noise. And any noise that came out made him angry. So it would, he would keep choking me harder because he's like, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Was the goal death at that point, do you believe?
I don't think so, but I don't know. I mean, I wasn't in his head, so I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Was that the first time that he had ever done something like that physically?
Yep, and then that was the first time anything like that has ever happened to me, so I didn't know what to do at first, so, like, once he finally, like, got off of me and left the apartment, I did eventually call the police, but it was, like, hours later. It was after talking to one of my friends, and they were like, "This isn't right, like, you need to call the police, like, this." So, yeah, it was hours after that that I called the police and did a police report, and he did go to jail, and at that time his mom lived in the town, and when the police were over there speaking to me, there was, like, a call coming over the radio that I could hear, and they said that the street name that his mom lived on, they said, "There's a B&E on that street," and I was like, "That's him." And they're like, "Well," I was like, "That's him." Like, he's trying to break into his mom's house, and it was. It was him breaking in the garage at his mom's house because he knew that I was gonna call the police and the cops were gonna come after him. So, yep, so that was the first time, and he did get taken to jail, and I think by the next day we were talking. He had called me from jail, and "I'm so sorry," calls and emails like, "I love you, I'm sorry."
Apology tour.
Mhm.
Do you think that we can become comfortable in chaos? Like, even if we didn't grow up in it, but you become accustomed to a certain level of chaos, and that becomes like a hit you gotta have too.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
To
And I think especially with him. And I don't know what it was, what it is. Like, now looking back, I don't get it. But at the time, yeah, like, I hated him, but I loved him, and, like, I needed him around all the time. That was another addiction in itself.
I'm glad you actually said that because addiction doesn't just come in the form of shooting up or smoking weed or snorting something up your nose. It can come in the form of a habit or in the form of a feeling or in the form of a relationship or in the form of money. It can form itself in any sort of envious, greedy manner as long as you're willing to take it. So walk me through that experience and the need to have him in your life.
Well, let's see. So I wanna say it was probably another year or 2 before I finally moved on from that situation. He eventually did get out of jail. I mean, not long after that, I think they gave him, like, a PR bond, so he wasn't even in there for long, and I let him right back in. Not long after that, put his hands on his own mom, like, choked her in her house, and she called me freaking out, saying he's going to jail, like, he just choked me, and I still answered those calls from the jail and tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Why? Somebody who put their hands on their own mother, I don't know, but I did. And then he was, like, in and out of jail quite a bit for, like, the next year or 2. Got clean again, went to rehab in 2015, October of 2015, and I have been clean from heroin since then, by the way.
Great.
Yay.
That's awesome. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
over 10 years now, so that's pretty cool. But
Yeah, that's absolutely something we need to celebrate,
yeah.
100%.
So even after when I got out, I think he was still in jail. I was clean. I ended up living at a sober house, so with a bunch of other sober girls, which was great for me. It was for someone who is getting clean, and if you don't have a place to live and you have like a sober house in your town, that's something I definitely recommend. It was a great time in my life. It was a great experience. Bonding with these girls was amazing. But of course, he gets out and I'm right back in that. I mean, wasn't using, but he was. Like, I would hang out with him while he's drinking or drive him because I think he had to stay clean, so he was using, like, kratom and those kinda things because they didn't show up on drug tests, so, like, I would take him to the stores to get that stuff, and then at one point, he had introduced me to one of his friends that he was in jail with, and this guy and I clicked right away, and I basically started dating this guy, and he flipped out, and you know, now looking back, it's like I gave him rides everywhere, I paid for everything, like, he was losing his money. It wasn't about me. He might have said it was about me. All of a sudden, he loves me and all this, but no, he was afraid of losing all that financial stuff that I had been, supporting him with for years. And he had asked me to give him a ride to the bus stop. So, because he was in college and he was taking the bus from one city to another. So I was like, okay, I'll give you a ride. And so my boyfriend at the time was like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I don't think you should do it. And I was like, it's fine. Like, I'm giving him a ride 2 miles away. Like, it's fine. Not a big deal. We get there to the, the place where the bus stop is. I remember my boyfriend had called me, so I answered the phone and that set him off. He grabbed my phone, threw it on the floor, like, on his side to where I couldn't reach it, grabbed me by the neck again, like, threw me in between the seats, and, like, I had sunglasses on at the time. Like, had his arm so hard that he broke the sunglasses, like, on my face, so I had bruises on my face, and, yeah, I couldn't even call the police because he had taken my phone. So, a witness there, some very kind lady, got out of her car and basically, screaming at him to get away from me. So he got out of the car, eventually ran. The police did catch him, and he went back to jail. And that was the last time that I saw him.
Wow, and it sounds like that's definitely for the best.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your addiction influenced the kind of relationships that you accepted? Like, so now with you being sober, right? And you've been sober for what, 10 years now, right?
I've been clean. I have relapsed on other things. Well, I haven't been clean. I've relapsed on other things. I've been clean from heroin for 10 years. So I want to make that clear.
Okay.
Like, I have used other substances,
Okay.
but I've been clean from heroin, which was my biggest drug of choice.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you think that the type of relationships that you accept now, whether it be friendship or romantic, have changed since deciding to not be a part of that anymore?
Yes and no. I did get into another relationship after the guy that I was with, like, right after him, that was only, like, a few months. And then about, I wanna say a year later, I got into another relationship that I was in for 6 years. At the time that I got in the relationship, and for the first few years, like, I thought it was a safe relationship. It was good.
Now, was this relationship somebody else that had an addiction problem?
He did. He was not at the time. When I had met him, he had stage 4 cancer. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and so he was starting to go through chemo. So I was there with him through his entire chemo process, taking him to all his appointments and being there with him while he was sick. Yeah, I mean, we had a good relationship at first, but he did eventually relapse like 5 years into it, and it all went downhill. And this was another he never it was another, like, domestic relationship. He never put his hands on me, but it was very verbally, mentally, emotionally abusive.
Give us an example of some of the things he would say to you.
He would say things like, if he was mad at me, he'd be like, "Well, now I know why your ex hit you," or yeah, just calling me names, calling me fat, calling me, just
Things
a
that are
lot of
absolutely unacceptable when you're in a
yeah,
relationship, or even if you don't say these things to your worst enemy, let alone the
no.
people that you're supposed to care and love.
And I hate to say it, I clocked out of that relationship by, like, year 2 or 3. But, like, at this point, I'm in my 30s, and for me, it was like, well, I feel like if I leave, I just wasted all this time. But now I'm like, I wasted even more time, I coulda left sooner, but I didn't.
Yeah. It's like a double-edged sword. I think
Yeah.
we've all been there before where it's like, I've put X amount of time into this relationship and now I'm this age. And society tells us that we have to get married and have kids and buy a house and fix our credit and do all these things by a certain age. So it puts these crazy expectations on us that cause us to stay in relationships longer than we want to, or it causes us to leave relationships that maybe we should be fighting harder for because social media tells you that the next best thing is always out there. It's always someplace else. So I just feel like, a lot of the times is these set expectations. So it holds us back from being able to make decisions that will be better for us in the long run. And what is time anyway? We never know if we're wasting it or not because we don't know how long we have.
Yeah, and I can kind of jump in with personal experience too. Like, and Beth, I think you know my ex, just the house that I lived in when you and I had lived in the same proximity together. We used to party in the house, and I met my ex when we were drunk. I was online, I was being a floozy, and I thought it was going to be a one night stand that ended up staying. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. But because I had this deep desire to be loved and needed, I was drinking and partying all the time, and I was, to Beth's point, I was like the follower. Oh, you want to go party? I'll party. You want to go drink and drive? I'll go drink and drive. You want to go smoke weed? I'll be a high school student. I'll be a college student. I'll do all this stupid shit at that point that thought I was getting a feeling from. Anything that gave me that feeling. I would go to the clubs. I was out. I was going and, you know, working until 2 a.m. for a third shift, having no hours of sleep, and then going to partying, coming back and like rinse repeat. It was just like my life for at least 5, 6 years. And then I met this person in that era of my life, and it was like alcoholics loved company. And we just did that shit together, but we fought hard, we loved hard. So when I would get these things from him, it would be, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me. And I would, because I put enough time and energy at that point into the relationship, and I didn't want to seem like I failed because I gave up, or that I could have done something differently. And the what if would have lived with me for a long time if I didn't just give it my all, right? But at what point is giving it your all? Well, for me, it was being in it for 10 years. And through that was being cheated on, was getting my ass kicked, was him showing up to my work when I was helping a client. I was in the literal middle of selling an engagement ring to somebody, and he walks in drunk in the middle of the mall, screaming at the top of his lungs. And this is a story I'll just never forget because it's just so crazy. But I wanted to share it for the podcast. And I was saying to my team and my clients, I'm so sorry. I got to go. So I'm saying to my ex, hey, look, we need to leave, and I'm trying to be calm and professional. I'm in a business suit and tie. And I'm like, let's go. I'll take you home. We get in the car. Now, mind you, I had a Saturn LS or LX 300 or 200. I don't remember the exact car model, but it was a Saturn. And the ignition, like you could take the key and you could pull out the key and it would still run. Like it was messed up, but it did. And he knew that. So drunk him, just belligerent out of nowhere, saying inaudible words. We're in the middle of a very busy intersection. And now most people know what I-75 is. So I-75 runs through Michigan all the way down to Florida. And we were at I-75 in something. And at this point, he takes the keys out of the ignition, rolls the window down, and says, "Go get this motherfucker." Throws them in the middle of the intersection, gets out of the car, and starts running down the sidewalk to go home. So now I am stuck with my car. I have to leave in the middle of the intersection traffic, go get my key out of the middle of the intersection, go home. When I get home, he's waiting for me there with a box fan to my face as soon as I open the door, and he starts hitting me with it. Now, I'm somebody that you can only take so many punches before it's now self-defense. So I took about 2 to 3 swings of the box fan plus a punch to the face before I started to go into psycho mode. And at that point, I'm in a business suit and I'm blowing punches left and right because I'm in like this enraged state, right? Like this guy just embarrassed me. He just tried to kill me essentially by taking my keys and throwing them in the middle of an intersection. I'm surprised my keys didn't get crushed. I'm surprised I didn't die. And I'm surprised my car didn't get hit. None of that happened, luckily. And I get home and then he has the right to just abuse me and abuse me and abuse me. And at this point, the abuse had been going on for like 6 years. And he was such an alcoholic that I would go to work. He would take my car before I go to work because he didn't have a car and he was only working intermittently for the last 10 years. He'd go like years without working and then pick up a job for 6 months, then stop for 2 years. And it was just like a cycle. But he would go to the gas station and he would get cigarettes and booze and he would hide them in the bush up front of our apartment. I'd go leave for work. He'd go grab the booze. He'd get fucked up all day. I'd come home. There'd be food burning on the stove. Surprised the house or apartment wasn't burned down. Dogs would have shit and piss all over the place because he hadn't let them out all day. He was passed out just snoring and cigarette butts all over the place. The house smelled like he had just hotboxed a bingo hall up in that bitch. And I'm out there working and slaving my ass off. And I wasted all of this time. And I look back and it was just one day something happened and I snapped out of it and I was like, "Oh my fucking God, what did I do with my life?" Like I just destroyed my life. But it was like on one end, I was professionally successful. On the other end, I was a complete disaster in my relationship and my ability to be strong because to everyone else, I presented as strong and a leader and confident. And I didn't let that get out to people because that was my protective layer. And behind the doors, I was a fucking wreck that was the 6'3" getting beat by a 5'9" man. And it's not that I couldn't fight, but it's that I didn't want to hit my partner. And I looked at him like he was a diseased person, that he had an illness. And who am I to hit somebody with an illness? You know, so I had to go through all these emotions of guilt and shame and wonder like, was this me? Did I do enough? And, you know, looking back in many, many years of therapy and medications, I've realized that no, it wasn't me. But at the same time, like those scars are still there. And I'm not the same person I was before that relationship. And I'm definitely not the same person I was in the middle. But I can tell you now that I'm excited for the future and I'm excited to continue to work through these things. And I'm excited to continue to work through this podcast and through you and hearing these stories. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time just to say that I relate to that. And even if it looks like you have it all together, it's not always the case. And for me, that's definitely my story.
I think that while I may not have experienced something on that level, I definitely have experienced a number of situations in my life where I feel like I wasted time. But what I will say is, unfortunately, I'm hard headed and I needed to learn things the hard way. So I don't look at it as a waste of time. I look at it as character building. And some people need a little bit tougher character building than others to kind of get through whatever message it is that they need to get through. And that's kind of how I choose to get it.
Yeah. So Beth, back to you. I'm curious to hear about how the transition from that last ex that was going through the cancer led up to where you're at now and the progression that you've had since then.
Well, because he started using, things were escalating a lot. It was getting really, really bad. He was using meth every day. Like when I would be home, he would be vacuuming the living room for hours, like hours. And I would come out there and be like, "Can you please stop?" And he's like, "I've been vacuuming for 15 minutes." I'm like, "It's been 4 hours." And I would go to work and he would blow up my phone while I was at work. Like I had 30 missed calls. And then he'd get mad if I didn't answer him. I'm like, "I'm working. Like I have customers. I cannot answer you right now." And I had met a friend through where I worked at. He was a customer, and I had kind of talked to him about a couple things. But one night it had gotten so bad, um, and we were fighting so bad that and this was one of the nights I was at work, and he was blowing up my phone, would not stop. And I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I need to get out of the house. And my friend was like, you can come sleep over here if you need to. And I was like, I think I need to. Like, I cannot be in the house with him tonight. I can't do it. And so I got home. He was in his bathroom smoking meth as usual. I was like, oh, good. Not even paying attention. Cool. I walked in my room, packed a bag. He had come out as I'm walking out the door. I said, I'm going to stay with a friend tonight. Please don't text me. Please don't call me. We can talk tomorrow. I said, if you text me and you call me and you blow up my phone, like I'm done. I can't do this. I just need space. I need space for tonight. Just please leave me alone and let me think. Immediately
Should
once I
be a
leave.
pretty easy task, right?
Yeah, he's blowing up my phone. I had pulled up to my friend's house and I answered the phone and I put him on speaker so my friend could hear as he's just screaming at me. I mean, and it didn't even make sense, just screaming nonsense about how I'm a horrible person and why would I leave? And I'm like, okay, I'm hanging up now. I'm like, this is your last chance. Leave me alone and we'll be fine. We can talk about it tomorrow. It's fine. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I just need some space. Hung up the phone. I think he called me for 5 hours straight, over and over and over again. Like, I
That's nuts.
eventually just turned my phone off and I put it on the charger and I set it up and I went to sleep. And I went home the next day and he's, still freaking out. And I looked at him, I was like, we're done. Like, this is it. We're done. I can't do this anymore. I asked you for one thing. I asked you to give me space. You couldn't respect that. We're done. Like, I've had enough. Like, it was it. Like, that was the final straw. I'd had it. I could not take it anymore. I didn't know what I was going to do because we lived together. We have 3 cats. We've been together for 6 years. I don't know what's going to happen after this. I was like, but I can't do this. And I remember I said, I'm going for a walk after that. And it was a beautiful day. And I called my mom and I told her I was done and she was proud of me. And I mean, this still continued from there. Like, he was still the same way every day, screaming at me, blowing up my phone if I wasn't there. You have to take me here. You have to take me to a doctor's appointment. You have to do this. You have to do that. At one point, he was mad at me. He came in to my room and I had the cat litter boxes in my room. He picked one up, I mean, full of piss and shit, and dumped it on my head in my bed. Like, I'm
Oh
sitting
my
on my
fucking
and he
god.
dumped it over my head. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
I don't even know how I would have I probably would have killed him. Like, honestly,
Right.
that would have been it.
I didn't even know what to do. I sat there like, "Are you serious?" And then he starts to help me clean it up and then starts to say, "Well, that I did it." And I was like, "Oh, I did this to myself." Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did this to myself. And then, like, I believe it was, like, a couple days after that, I was in a totally different room. He went in the bedroom and fake tripped over one of the boxes and then tried to say that I threw litter at him. I was like,
Oh my
Boy,
gosh.
like, if you don't get it together, 'cause I can't. I would go to work and he would take his drugs, put them in my bathroom, like, in the drawers, and then take pictures and be like, "I'm sending these to the police." That's not even mine. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, he had been just using so much that he was just gone.
He was
Like, he was
gone.
not the same
Yeah.
person anymore. He was gone. But at one point, I had just quit. I was like, "I'm done with this. Like, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to do that." I'm not going to be. So I went and threw all my stuff out. And I think that's when he started to, you know, plant stuff and take pictures because he was mad that I wasn't playing, his game anymore. So, and then it was after the cat litter thing that I had enough. And that day or the next day, I had went to the police station and filed for a PPO out on him. And he had also sent me like texts saying that he was going to kill me. He'd said things like he was going to kill me. Like, you wish he could tie me to a tree and set me on fire. I'm like, this
Oh my
is
fucking god.
crazy, crazy. So I put this all in the PPO and I think they granted it like a couple days after that, but it was a Friday. And so I had to get an officer to serve him with it, but it was, like, too late in the day Friday, so everybody was gone. So they're like, "Well, your best bet is you can, you can pay for somebody to come serve it to him, or you just wait it out through the weekend and then come to the police station Monday and talk to us, and then we'll go serve it to him." I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll just play it out for the weekend." So, like, I'm trying to play nice that weekend with him to not let him know that anything's up, because if he finds out, I don't know. I don't know. It could go so many ways. Who knows?
With everything that you've been through, the different relationships, the addiction, and then kind of there's a pattern of like your relationships or what kind of loops you back into. this pattern of addiction that you have. What is something that you want people to learn or take away from this story today that we're sharing?
I guess it's that you don't have to repeat these same patterns. And there is help out there, and you just have to ask for it. Also, when you get in a relationship, especially if you get in a relationship with another addict, and people are going to tell you, like, relapse happens, and you have to be aware that it happens, and you have to be willing to let go when it does happen, because if you don't, this is the kind of thing that you make yourself vulnerable to. And I wasn't willing to let them go. And this is what it turned into for me. And I have a lot of friends who've been in the same positions too, who, you start dating somebody when you're clean, one of you relapses, you don't want to let go of that relationship, and it ends up both of you in this toxic place using. But there is help out there. There is people to talk to. There are meetings to go to. And yeah, I just want people to know, like, if you feel alone, you're not. You're not. I could give a million stories, like a million more about what I've went through. Like, these are just like the
Tip of the
breaking points
icebergs.
of everything. Like, there's so much more, so much.
Yeah, of course. There's more of the in between, and these were just the straw that broke the camel's back and
Right.
got you to the place of growth and
But
leaving that
there's
behind and letting go.
yeah, I mean, there's good things too that come out of it. The PPO was served. He had to leave and move to Ohio. I couldn't afford rent on my own. So my best friend told me I can move in with her. So I moved like an hour and a half away from home, took my 3 cats with me, and I've been here for a little over a year now. He, my ex, went back to Ohio and within 2 months overdosed and passed away. Yeah. And that's one of the things I was afraid of too, and one of the reasons why I left, because I was so scared of coming home and finding him dead. It terrified me. At first, I think I kind of wanted to blame myself, but I don't. I mean, it's not my fault. He chose to do that. He chose to continue using. I gave him an out. He moved in with his family. He moved to another state. He could have gotten clean. He could have gotten better. He didn't.
Mhm.
And it's not my fault that it happened. Like, am I sad? I'm very sad about it. Yeah.
What is something that is getting you excited for the future? Like, what is next for Beth? I'm just really excited to hear, what you're looking forward to, because we all deserve happiness, and God, you've been through it, girl. So it's your turn to shine. So tell us what that looks like for you.
Well, I think right now, I eventually want to move out of here and get my own place. I know I talked to Josh about possibly moving down to Florida because my mom and stepdad lived there for more than half the year and they come back up to Michigan for the summers. But so I'd be closer to them. We'll see. But I am like working on saving money right now, which is weird. I mean, I'm almost 40 now, and this is the first time in my life that I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. Like, my car died today, but,
Not
I
clapping
had
for that. We're clapping for
yeah,
the other thing.
yeah, no,
Not
no, no,
right, not the
but
car,
but
but
I have money to fix it or to
yes,
fix
that's a
my other car.
blessing.
Whatever, my credit score is the highest it's ever been. I've been working on
That's
that.
great. That's great.
Good
Yeah,
job, that's
yeah.
awesome.
So, I'm getting there. It took me a long time, really long time, but I'm getting there.
Doesn't matter how long it takes you, it's just the journey.
I mean, that's my plan. So right now, we might have to put Florida on hold and just sell both my cars and get a new one. I don't know where we're going with that yet, but
Baby steps. Florida's still there. It's
yeah,
not going anywhere, and it's a
right?
goal, and a goal can be a
Right,
dream, and that dream can be reality.
exactly, yeah. You just gotta take steps to do that and pace yourself instead of trying to bite off too much, so
Yeah.
Absolutely.
awesome.
Well, Beth, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, Tiffany's heart, our audience's heart. You've done a lot of pouring of your own today, out of your own heart. Wow, I didn't know you've been going through that. Thank you for sharing, audience out there. I hope that you have gained a lot of insight into a lot of topics that were needing to be discussed today. And for me, my takeaway would be to always make sure that you talk to your friends. I definitely could have been there through these times, Beth. So I wish I could have been, and I apologize I wasn't. And now that I'm hearing through all this, you had so much pain and anguish and things going on that, I'm glad social media has brought that part of this connection back into our lives, because I don't know, we wouldn't have that otherwise. Florida, Michigan, you don't have pen pal letters anymore, so this is kind of it.
So, yeah, social media.
I guess that's the one thing that it brings us that's a positive. But thank you for you coming on.
And thank you. I appreciate you being on too. I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I have is what you shared about just resources for people. You mentioned sober home, and then you also mentioned like AA and Narcotics Anonymous meetings. So just to listeners out there, making sure that you're using your resources, right? And sometimes your resources are a podcast. Sources are just being honest and having an open, honest conversation with another friend about what you're going through and not being worried that you're going to be judged and criticized, but being hopeful that someone might provide a resource that you did not know about, or maybe a little push that you needed to use that resource. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story and, hopefully possibly being a part of someone else's story about the resources they choose to use to kind of change their life the way that you did.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. That was
Absolutely.
yeah, that was good. I liked that.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to hearing from you soon, Beth. All the best.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.